Firstly, I would like to thank Black and EA for giving me this opportunity to be here with you and to share with you my work. So let me present myself. I'm Lamyae Mellouk. I'm from Morocco, and I'm PhD. So the idea of this work was born from the Moroccan strategy. Moroccan strategy is to integrate 40% of renewable energy in his system. So by 2020. So as my expertise are computer sciences, I decide to combine mathematical modeling to computer sciences to achieve this goal. My approach can be applied for Moroccan case study and also to the other countries who want to integrate renewable energy in his system. So let's move directly to why we need to integrate renewable energy in our system. So as we can see in this figure, the last decades, the electricity consumption grows dramatically. So, and also the price of electricity grows proportionally to this demand. So, on the other side, our life will be unhealthy life due to high toxic risk of gas emission. So, to face to this growth demand, Moroccan government decided to launch several projects, basically based on photovoltaic energy and wind energy. The objective for the Moroccan government is to move from importer to exporter by 2019. And also the objective, and the big objective, is to reduce greenhouse gas emission. So the stakeholder think to move from the classical grid to the smart grid. This migration from the classical grid to smart grid touch several axes like production, market, consumers. Let's see the production. The classical grid, in the classical grid, the production of energy is based on few and large plants. But in the smart grid, there are several and small power plants to produce energy. For the market, the owner for the classical grid is generally the government. But in the smart grid, there are several producers, which mean that there are the concurrence in the price to propose the price of energy. Also, the transmission, also on the transmission for the classical grid, as we can see, the transmission is based on the large power lines, but on the smart grid includes small lines. The big difference is about the consumption of energy. The consumption of energy for the classical grid is from the producer to the consumer. But in smart grid, the consumer also can be a producer of energy and inject his proper energy in the grid. So in order to implement the smart grid in our life, there are several challenges. We need to optimize the selling, buying, storing energy due to the nature of renewable energy, fluctuant and intermittent nature of renewable energy. We have to reduce pollutant emission, and the big problem is to find the balance between the demand and the production of energy. There are some technical challenges due to the hardware resource implemented in the smart grid. We have to give a good response in short time. So, three big problems related to smart grid. The first one is environmental dynamic economic dispatch problem. it is related to the production of energy. The second problem is how to optimize design and sizing for the smart grid. How to decide which component is suitable to implement it in some city, for example. The third problem is the demand. How to optimize the bill for the consumer. There are several techniques, mathematical modeling, to solve this problem. There are also the exact method, but exact method are not suitable for this kind of problem due to the stochastic data for the energy. So I propose a case study that can be solved by a parallel algorithm for meta-heuristics method. So there are two complementary stages. Firstly, we have to decide about the design to implement in a given city. As my example, I worked on Lamyae city, which is a city on south of Morocco. I gave the latitude and longitude for this city, and from this, I can predict the speed up for the wind and solar irradiation. So, based on this data, I can predict which component is suitable for this city, based on, in order to respond to 1 megawatt as typical data, as typical demand data. So once we give the suitable design or component for the grid, we can decide, we can manage this energy. So the management, as we can see, our algorithm gives us four energy sources: photovoltaic, CPV, concentrated photovoltaic, and steam turbine photovoltaic. And when we decide to manage, we need to add storage system, battery. So here, there are two problems. The first one, we have the renewable energy is intermittent and stochastic, and demand energy is also stochastic. So that's why we need the algorithm based on stochastic process. So the objective is to minimize the pollutants and to decide when we can sell energy and when we can buy it for the upgrade and when we can store or use it in the grid, in microgrid, okay? So there are several constraints in our system. So mainly, we have to don't excess the battery capacity, and also we have to keep the balance between demand and production. So our algorithm is is composed by 4 threads. Each one is the combination between a particle swarm optimization method and genetic algorithm method. I try to combine diversification and intensification in one thread to have several solutions and keep it on one thread and regenerate the system to have the best solution at the end. So, as a result of our system, I can predict the amount of energy and the cost of energy for each energy sources. And as we can see here, I can decide how % of each energy sources I can implement in this case study. As we can see here, in order to replace 40% for renewable energy, I can integrate 60% of wind energy turbine, which means 100 wind turbine in our system, and so on. So let's move. I can save 3,000, more than 3,000 of CO2 by year if I integrate 40% of renewable energy in our system. And the energy production cost is with including or without including is 0.90%. So, so here the results between the comparison with our algorithm and the other algorithm. As we can see, the conversion time is 100%, computing time is the better one, and also the cost given by our algorithm is the less one. So the limitation is, as we can see, the initial population was generated randomly, which make time larger. The time up. Okay. So thank you.